Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online, and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Well, Anthony and I are off to Amsterdam tomorrow for Bitcoin Amsterdam. We couldn't be more excited, but before we leave, we wanted to jump on and continue along with our September production results. We've got 4 more companies to discuss in today's video, a lot to go through. Before we do, you guys take a second, hit the like button, big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about the September numbers, your sentiment towards the Bitcoin miners overall, and how your account's looking today with this rally we've seen in the mining sector. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, guys, here we have it. Friday morning, the end of the trading week. Very good looking session in the markets today. We'll bring up the mid-morning market update. But first, Anthony, our last podcast before we embark on our trip to Amsterdam for Bitcoin Amsterdam next week. So a lot of travel on the horizon. We're still going to be doing regular podcasts. We're going to be providing updates. We've got Sue Ennis on the platform next week. How are you feeling about the market this morning and our trip next week, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the trip. Just got back from Frankfurt this week, but I'm looking forward to Amsterdam. Good chance to catch up with a few people that are going there that we've dealt with before on the podcast, and some followers attending it. So yeah, it should be a good week there.
I've never been there myself, so I'm looking forward to it, and should be a great little change of scenery here, Anthony. So as you say, a number of the miners that we represent are going to the conference. We're going to be doing our best to provide a daily update for both the first and second day. In addition to that, Anthony, an update on our Miner Madness competition. We're actually installing a live leaderboard on the company website as we speak. So come Monday, you'll be able to go in on powermininganalysis.com, take a look in real time where you rank in comparison to the hundreds of other entries in this competition and in comparison to the analyst entries that we've received as well. And I will say, Anthony, 3-4 days in, I do have you beat. I'm in 20th position as of right now, which I'm feeling pretty good about.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. Hey, I got to take the wins where I can. I don't know if I'll be able to beat you for the whole quarter, so I'm just going to take little screenshots.
There's about, to be honest, Bryce, there's about $40 between the best person in first place and the person in bottom place. So it's early days yet. So, but it's nice to be in that sort of top group there. You're certainly in the top, probably like top 3 or 4% of the whole competition. So that's quite good.
Well, I appreciate the support, and it is interesting how tight the spread is, Anthony. You and I were talking about that. Riot's my first pick, and after that interview with Jason Les last night, I'm feeling even better about that decision. So if you guys have not seen that interview, a fantastic conversation with Jason talking about Corsicana, September updates, the Bitfarms settlement, and a number of other key updates. Now, Anthony, we talk about Miner Madness and some of these selections really starting to take shape. This morning, we had CleanSpark, IREN, and CIFR all up in excess of 10% at some point or another. Now, the screenshot I've pulled here, CIFR has retreated a little bit. So IREN and IREN and CleanSpark still over 10%. That being said, green across the board, except really for TeraWulf and Gryphon slightly, which we'll come on to. There was some big news from Wolf last night. Anything surprise you in this mid-morning market update, Anthony?
No, it's a nice little rally today, and Bitcoin price hasn't really changed too much. It's still in that sort of like that band 60 to 63. So I think we broke through 62 earlier today. But yeah, nice little rally for the stocks. Bitcoin price, changed like 1%, but the mining stocks, some of them are 10% here. So again, the volatility quite open to see. Yeah, CleanSpark and IREN were the 2 largest picks from all the entrants. I think literally nearly 65% of everybody that entered had IREN in either first, second, or third choice. I mean, that was how strong that was. and CleanSpark was the second biggest pick, followed by Bitfarms. So interesting that their stocks are doing quite well today. But at the end of the day, they're both put out good updates yesterday, both significantly over 20 exahash. Let me repeat that, they're over 20 exahash. And look where they were sort of 18 months, 2 years ago. They were both probably around about the 2 exahash mark. So massive growth strategy for both of those, and they're not finished yet. Both of them will be over 30 exahash by the end of December. So markets obviously this year looked at that, and they've both, in the last sort of 12 months, have had a nice premium built into the share price.
Yeah, they certainly have. And good news on the pricing front as well, Anthony. We reached out to both CIFR and CleanSpark last night. They said they've already got pricing en route to myself. So we're going to put together some great sweepstakes and winning prize boxes for this competition as well. Now, speaking of the September production results, I know we covered a good portion of the miners yesterday. We've got 4 more to go through today, Anthony. And then more or less the majority of miners have reported. Hive is the first one. So they came out with an update on September and their ATM program. In terms of mining, 112 Bitcoin, consistent with what we saw in August. But why don't you walk us through some of the highlights from Hive?
Yeah, so we know that Hive, are generally a top 2 performer effectively in mining, and this month's no different. Bitcoin mine was exactly the same as last month, and bear in mind, September has actually got a day shorter than August, so they've managed to eke out a little bit more Bitcoin to keep that level at the same point it was last month. There, they've actually increased the operational hash rate, so the total hash rate energized is 5.6 now, so that's an increase by 2% on August. But they've increased their operational hash rate. So this is how much their machines are up during the month. Bear in mind, a lot of miners have to curtail, or they have downtime for weather conditions or for maintenance, software updates, etc., etc. But they've managed to increase their operational hash rate to 5.3, which is a 6% increase. We know the fleet efficiency is one of the best in the mining space at the moment. They're at 23 joules a terahash, so that's a sort of certainly in the top 5 of all the miners. Bitcoin hodl, again, they've managed to add 37 Bitcoin to their hodl, and that gives them effectively a hodl of 2,604 coin. If you put that into dollars as at the end of September, that's $165 million in their hodl. So, a good treasury position there for them as they go through and look to advance their hash rate by going into Paraguay. So, but in the next 12 months, they'll be up and running in Paraguay, and that will effectively more than double their hash rate from where it is at the moment to over 12 exahash. So we'll be getting progress updates from Hive as they do that. They give it, I think, a 12-month time frame, and that was from the beginning of last month. So already started into that project now. We've seen other miners like Bitfarms and the likes of Marathon Digital also operate in Paraguay. So it's not the first mining company to go down there, and we'll be watching Hive with a watchful eye over the next 12 months as they build that facility out there. I was lucky to go to Hive's facilities in Sweden last weekend, so I managed to join the team and go to Boden, where they have HPC and self-mining data centers up there. Really impressive. Great to see. It's the first time I've been to a data center with GPUs, so that was another tick in the box there. And I was able to see in their Bitcoin mining section, they had the S21 Pros, which are the most efficient miners on the market at the moment. So they're operating there. And you'll know from some of Hive's previous updates that they've been buying batches of these in sort of like 1,000 machines at a time, strengthening their hash rate, replacing some of the less efficient miners, and delivering a better return, because You want to have the most efficient miners in place now as the hash price has been dropping. I mean, it was below 40 recently, and it's probably just hovering above 40 as we speak today. So not great margins for miners, but if you've got the most efficient miner mining and your energy price is reasonable, you can still make a decent margin out of Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, great analysis, Anthony. It's awesome that you were able to visit that site and see some of those next generation machines in action, not to mention help bring down their overall fleet efficiency, which is one of the best in class. Now, in addition to the production result, we also got an update on their ATM program. So maybe we can quickly touch on that one as well.
Yes, so the company issued yesterday prospectus, which is dated the 3rd of October, and I think it's down to it's connected with their short form based shelf prospectus, which was dated back in September 11th, and the company have announced that it's entered into an ATM with Stifel as lead agent, and then a syndicate of other agents. So these are some, like the big Wall Street companies, Canaccord, Genuity, Roth Canada, B Riley, Northland Capital Markets. And so these agents will be looking to help the company put some of these shares onto the market at the opportune moment to get the best prices for them. And yeah, they've got $200 million ATM program. I mean, it's not the first ATM that Hive have had. And to be honest, they haven't utilized anywhere near previous ATMs. So if we go back over the last 2 years and look at what they have utilized in terms of size of the company, they've only sort of like used about 44% growth in the company. If you look at the last 2 years for say CleanSpark, they've actually sold about 500% of the company. However, then you look at the size of the hash rate for each company, and you can see that CleanSpark have utilized the ATM really well to grow that. And maybe Hive now think it's an opportune moment to go to the market and when the share price is in a good position there and the cost of capital benefits them, they can sort of like release some shares into the market and use that capital to grow their HPC business and also to update machines and to get ready for Paraguay as well. I mean, build out in Paraguay and to fill it with miners is going to be an expense there. So they're doing all this planning and preparation in line for that there. And we know that the ATMs are a better lever for the miners than going down the debt route or going down the dilution route. So if a company goes and says we're going to dilute shares on the market at a given date, then the impact of the price of these shares does really occur when those shares are traded, because everybody knows a set amount of shares will be traded on the day and the company hasn't really gone up in value. So the company share price will basically retract to take account of the extra shares issued. With an ATM, it's a little bit more different. We don't know when they're going to be selling shares. They may sell one share, $1 worth of shares. They may sell $200 million worth of shares over a period. And generally, these are over a significant period. So it might be over 12 months or even 2 years. So it just gives them an opportunity to raise capital in readiness for all their plans that they're bringing out over the next sort of 12 months.
Yeah, great explanation of that ATM, Anthony, and some of the perks of it. It's a program we've seen used quite successfully by many of the miners this past year. Seems Hive is looking to follow suit there. And interestingly enough, Anthony, many of those listing agents that you mentioned were the same analysts that were down in Denton and Corsicana with us from the same investment bank. So obviously familiar with the space. Now, the next miner to come out with production was Hut 8 Corp. Now, you've put together a table for their self-mining activity. Hut 8 does a really good job, in my opinion, of breaking out the business units. So they've got a self-mining update, managed service update, and of course, their hosting business or division. So anything stand out there, Anthony, in terms of the self-mining to start, I guess?
So self-mining, if you take away or just look at the Hut 8 share of their self-mining, and that's also the share of the JV at King Mountain, they've got about 4.7 exahash of self-mining. And that was the same as what it was in August. So no increase in the number of miners, no increase or change in the actual efficiency of the miners. So Hut 8 haven't really invested in any new mines for quite some time. I think they're about to, look at that with options going forward because they made a big announcement that they were looking to buy a Bitmain model, but actually one that they'd designed with Bitmain, and they were looking to purchase something in the region of about 15 exahash of miners. But that predominantly that was for their hosting business. But they do have an option to purchase a significant amount for the self-mining. So they're looking at, what's going to be the most opportune time to improve that fleet. Is the self-mining business with the current Bitcoin price the business that's going to bring in a better return, or with the hosting type business? And we spoke to other miners before, like Bitdeer, in times where the market's a bit more bearish, these hosting deals are really, really good because you effectively know you've got a guaranteed revenue stream coming through there. In terms of power, operational power, if you look at all the three services that they provide, that's like 762 megawatts. So certainly up there in the top two or three miners in terms of operational power available at the moment. The one thing that stands out with Hut compared to most of its peers is really the size of its HODL. So the company has maintained that HODL since its previous existence as Hut 8. But now Hut 8 Corp has got 9,106 Bitcoin in the HODL. That's got a valuation at September 30th price of around about $577 million. So that's a great treasury position. We heard the other day that they'd started to look at reducing debt. So they basically transfer some debt using equity, and that reduced about $30 million of debt. So that's bringing the debt down. It's still sort of quite high for a mining company, certainly of Hut size there. If you think about the amount of debt there, they've still got probably just under $300 million of debt there. So they'll probably be looking at ways to reduce that, and they have options available for them. They have levers they can pull to reduce that debt if it needs to. And we know that some of these miners, the likes of TeraWulf, the likes of Bitfarms, where they've had significant debt before, they've had a strategy to reduce that, and I'm sure Hut will be looking at ways where they can reduce some of the more expensive debt. And sometimes some of the low-cost debt is really useful. If you look at the likes of Marathon and Core Scientific, they've been able to take some debt on recently that was literally between 2 and 3%. So you can get some debt really cheap. But then we've seen some of the miners, they've got loans 14, 15, 16% of interest. That's high repayments, and you've got to make sure the Bitcoin price delivers a great margin for you to cover that interest payment. So we'll keep a watchful eye on Hut 8. They've also got obviously the two other services that we've spoke about. So they have effectively the hosting service and a managed service. So managed service is really where you're basically going in and looking after a site on behalf of the client, and you'll deliver that mining on behalf of them. You get a fee for that. A hosting service is where you will own the site and you will let potential clients come onto your site, and they will pay. You will manage those machines, host those machines, and you'll get a payment for that there. So quite lucrative services to run. And bear in mind, they've also got the HPC services. We know that Hut have got those 5 data centers in Canada, and they've got plenty of contracts running from those there. So overall, it's a good update. I mean, what we remember is Hut 8 are in terms of self mining, it's probably the smallest part of their business at the moment. I think some of the retail investors probably want to see maybe some of the miners' efficiency improved. I mean, I think it's over 31 at the moment. We've just been talking about miners operating, lower than 20. And we'll come on to our mine, that's probably, flying the flag for efficiency at the moment. But, to get these miners, you need an inordinate amount of funding to do that. So, a lot of these miners are having to sort of organically grow. And I'm assuming that when Hut have the right timing to buy the options to get that self-mining hash rate increased, they'll make that decision to do it.
Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Yeah, I would think so as well, Anthony. And we actually have Sue Ennis on the program next week to help walk us through not only the September production results, but also some of the strategic decisions and updates coming from Hut recently. Now, you mentioned flying the flag for efficiency, Anthony. The next miner here, IREN, an extremely strong production report, really following up on a series of strong monthly reports, now breaking that 21 exahash milestone. And fleet efficiency 16 joules per terahash, Anthony, which is the lowest of any public miner by far, and the lowest I've heard of, period, in the industry. So a great month from IREN, and a lot of people very excited based on the picks we received for Miner Madness about this company.
Absolutely. No, really strong month for IREN. And you know, we've seen good production numbers from them. They are, you know, I mean, last year they finished, you know, in the top, I think top 3 or top 4 of all the miners in terms of production. But yeah, a big increase, 42% increase in the number of Bitcoin produced in September than in August. And bear in mind, again, September is a day shorter. So 347 Bitcoin produced. Total hash rate now at 21. The plan was to get to 20, so they've exceeded the plan. The average operational hash rate, so obviously they're putting those machines in during the month. So they went from 16 at the end of August to 21 at the end of September. So the operational hash rate was 16 and a half. The power now, the operational power has increased by 60 megawatts. So they're now at 360 megawatts. That's a 20% increase. So we've had a 31% increase in installed hash rate. We had a 51% increase in operational hash rate. We've got 11% increase in the fleet efficiency. The fleet efficiency is 16, and no miner comes anywhere near that. I think Bitfarms at 21 might be the closest to that. And CleanSpark not too far away from that either. But that's still a big difference. Obviously, we know that IREN sell their Bitcoin on a daily basis, and they've explained why they do that. Dan's come on the show many times and articulated that point as to why they sell the Bitcoin. Not to say in the future they'll start hodling, but they feel at the moment to grow the company, to get it to its size, and it's got some big plans for this year and for next year. So 31 exahash by the end of the year is its target. The thing that stood out for me on the update was the actual cost to mine a Bitcoin. So we saw, you know, a couple of months ago where it was like 61,000. Now they've bought themselves out of that hedge. We saw August literally halve from 61 down to, or more than half, down to 29,900. And in September, that figure's gone down to 23,600. And predominantly that change will be related to the efficiency of the miners. So when you drop your efficiency, and they've dropped it by, you know, more than 10%, that's going to give you a reduction on your electricity cost as well. So we know from Riot's yesterday, their update, that the market rate in Texas has been good. It's been kind to miners in September. They were able to achieve, I think, 3.5 cents. IREN will also have been able to receive 3.5 cents, probably market rate for there. And they also would have had some sort of energy strategy where they probably get some power sales or demand response credits to help them with that cost as well. So really low cost there. In terms of the AI cloud service revenue, we've seen that drop, and we know that the previous client had decided to move to another provider. That was always on the cards to happen. They managed to get a bit of an extension out of it in the first instance, but that was moved away there. But they're still at $685,000 for the month. And in terms of electricity costs supporting that service, just $12,000. So you can see that, HPC in terms of energy cost is, it's a great return. However, these figures do not include the cost of or the return that's required to pay for the machines in the first place. So, I don't want to get people overly excited, but I mean, once you've got those machines in place and you've paid back, the margins are exceptional. That's, we're talking 98% margins in terms of the revenues received versus the energy cost to deliver that revenue. So again, really good update from IREN, certainly leading the way in terms of efficiency, in terms of growth, pretty much a really solid update. I'm looking forward to the next 3 months when we see them get to 31 by the end of the year.
Pretty much a really solid update is right. And we got a couple of pictures from Childress. My one complaint or critique for the team at IREN is you need to get a higher definition drone for these pictures, because compared to the Riot pictures, they're a little bit hard to zoom in on, but some great progress being made at Childress. We can see those buildings continuing to go up just like Lego blocks on the screen there. So
Yeah, do you remember when there was just 5 of them, and we said they're going to have to build a lot more of those and get them out quickly? But look at that picture now. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's probably 15 now, so they built an extra 10, and they're still going to be building all the way down that strip there. So, and if you look at the picture, I know it's not in the sort of same definition as the ones we saw from Corsicana, but they look, even from what you can see there, to be quite a solid build. And we know that not IREN, but other people have commented before. People in the space that say that they don't skimp on infrastructure. Infrastructure has got to be there to deliver this service for a while. So don't build out, shoddy buildings. Make sure they're built to last the while, because you're going to be here for a significant amount of time doing this business.
well, that's exactly right. And when you think about these large single sites like Childress or Corsicana, the mining rigs themselves continue to get more efficient, more dense in terms of power, and smaller, Anthony. So if they future-proof these buildings, they'll be able to use these data centers and shells for generations of miners to come. So exciting to see progress being made. Interesting on the IREN too, they must use some sort of green insulation or footer or something for these buildings. But as they're building them, it looks actually like green shoots coming up in the field. So very interesting there. Now, the next discussion point is TeraWulf, Anthony. So they came out with monthly production. They also came out with a big announcement where they're actually selling their position in the Talon joint venture at the Nautilus facility. So for those of you not super familiar with TeraWulf, really two bases of operation. They had Nautilus, which is the nuclear facility, the 2 cent power, and then Lake Mariner, which is the one that had the Hope of Port Authority, 1,800 acres of water access there. So this is in relation to the Nautilus nuclear facility, Anthony. Interestingly enough, when Paul Prager came on the program, we had asked him about this if they were to get a purchase offer, and he had said fairly candidly they were open to selling. What's interesting about this, Anthony, is the price. So $92 million. If you look at their total portfolio, this represents about 50 megawatts, or maybe say give or take 2 exahash of arguably their best mining power rates, right? At the 2 cent power. They also said they had this contract out for an additional 2 years. So in terms of share price today, TeraWulf pulling back about 5%, one of the only red miners on the day. It seems as though the market is a little unsure about this move.
Yeah, you've got to remember that the two stocks that have really sort of ramped up since that initial core we deal with, Core Scientific, have been Core Scientific and TeraWulf. At one point last week, I think both stocks were up 155%, and we mentioned this on a previous podcast. You're quite right. Paul came on the show, and basically, when we asked him the question about there was an interest from, I think, Amazon looking to take over that Nautilus site there, and he said basically, if you write the big enough check, I'll take it. And so it looks like they've done that. The only thing from my side is it was their obviously their site where they had the cheapest energy. I mean, 2 cents a kilowatt hour is sort of effectively the cheapest consistent energy price of any of the miners in the North America at the moment. I mean, we've talked about CIFR at 2.7. We've talked about Soluna, who are able to achieve around about 3. Riot also, 3 to 3.5 in terms of they have a PPA and they're also using the market rate for their Corsicana site. But at 2 cents at Nautilus, which effectively you can run round the clock because you don't need to curtail nuclear power. So that was it was really interesting. But obviously, from their perspective, and who are we to sort of like criticize a mining company? They've built the mining company. I mean, bear in mind, 3 years ago they weren't doing any mining, so this is something that they've moved into recently. We have to refer back to the Patrick Fleury interview, and he came on the channel and effectively said, not in too many words, that the focus was really on high performance computing. He wouldn't even give an update of where the hash rate would be for next year. Now, in this update, they are talking about maintaining that target of 13 exahash by, I think it's now by Q1. I think originally it was probably by the end of the year, but by Q1 2025. And I'm assuming that the miners will come out of Nautilus now. And they've also, in terms of the deal, they've got 85 million plus about 30,000 miners that Talon had, the equipment that they had there. So, they'll be moved probably to Lake Mariner site. So there's a lot of machines going into Lake Mariner to sort of like to get the hash rate back online. But also at the same time, we know that it does need to grow as well. So I think the last update in August, it was at 10 exahash. And so we'll see that target of 13 achieved during the Q1 2025. But it wouldn't surprise me now using that 85 million there. Bear in mind, they've already paid back all the debt, so it's not going to be to cover any debt. That could be used as an investment to deliver infrastructure and etc. to deliver a sort of like a high performance computing project.
Yeah, it is an interesting point, Anthony, you bring up about the HPC AI angle. And I thought this quote or tweet from Carrie Langlis last night was interesting as well, stating Wolf has now completed the sale of their 25% interest in Nautilus for a sizable return, being that total consideration of 85 million and 7 million in machines. The capital will support our expansion into HPC and AI and Bitcoin mining at Lake Mariner. More updates to come. I feel like this is a two-parter, Anthony, and there's going to be some sort of big HPC AI announcement to complement this move because, as I say, when we look at purchase rates, Riot, for example, approaching Bitfarms with the $2.30 offer, it worked out to about $100 million per exahash. So again, in this situation, sub $50 million per exahash, for arguably two of the best exahash in the industry. It is a little bit interesting, and that's what leads me to think it may be part of a bigger chess move here, Anthony. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, people are gonna probably be initially critical of the fact that it is the cheapest power, but this is about moving that funding into HPC. So we know that they've completed a 2 megawatt proof of concept. And now they're constructing a 20 megawatt co-location building, CB1, at the Lake Mariner site. And that should be able to handle something like 16 megawatts with advanced cooling and tier 3 redundancy features. So that'll be a real proper HPC data center there. And then what they're going to also do is use this funding now to deliver a second building, CB2, with a planned capacity of 50 megawatts, and that's targeted to be completed, in the next sort of 8 or 9 months. So by the end of Q2 2025. So although we've not got no formal announcement on type of client, they're going to have effectively heading towards 60 to 70 megawatts of power supporting HPC. Now, in terms of the miners, when you have if you were to convert the energy for mining and or confirm the revenues from HPC into mining, that sort of 70 megawatts would have to be something like 700 megawatts of mining power to deliver a similar amount of revenue. So that's, when you hear the words 50 megawatts and 16 megawatts, they might sound small numbers when we're talking about Corsicana and Childress, but believe you me, in HPC terms, that's massive. A lot of these miners are starting with really small, and TeraWulf started with a 2 megawatt project just to prove that they could actually fulfill it. That's been proven now, and once you've done a proof of concept, you can then deliver that on a bigger scale because you've got the backup then to say we can do this. If you're a mining company and say we're going to build a HPC data center and haven't done one before, your client wants to know really that you can do it. So a lot of these miners, we've seen Soluna Holdings, they've done proof of concept. Theirs was, I think, was a 2 megawatts. We've seen Bitdeer also do 2 megawatt proof of concept in Singapore. They're going to now, both of those will expand those into projects at various sites. So this is like a little test and see, and it's an expensive test and see. I mean, 2 megawatts, that might sound small. That's enormous. It's big. It won't be a small building. That'll be quite a decent sized building to deliver a significant amount of high performance computing. So I think, they've obviously looked at the numbers, think they can utilize the funding from Nautilus and deliver that HPC, because at the end of the day, the conversation at the moment is more around HPC than it's about Bitcoin mining. So they're really sort of like hedging their bets a little bit in covering both. They're going to have a good size mining business and they're going to have a great size HPC business. And the share price is down today, but once a customer's announced, we saw what happens to the likes of Core Scientific, and that share price has done nothing but move in one direction since effectively the start of the year. But once that announcement happened in June the 3rd, remember that date? That was the date of the announcement. The share price really took off.
You have that date tattooed on you now, don't you, Anthony? That's
absolutely.
I'm just bugging you. TeraWulf continues to be my biggest hold in the space, Anthony. This is a very educated, experienced, well-oiled management team. Paul and Nazar have been together with the greater group for years and years. And there's one thing I'll say is I do trust the management at this company. So an interesting move. I'm betting there's more information to come as part of this story, and really like the direction and opportunity that the HPC AI offers to Wolf, not to mention keeping that Bitcoin mining and making a sizable return on that location as well. So congrats to the team at Wolf. Big move in the right direction. Now, in terms of self-mining for TeraWulf, Anthony, we got some numbers there as well. I know you've put together one of your tables. Anything surprising on the Bitcoin mining front?
So again, similar to what we've seen from Hive, TeraWulf are delivering a similar amount to what they did last month there. So a total of 176 Bitcoin. They did do 184 last month, so a little bit down. Maybe accounts for the day of extra or day less of mining. So in terms of what they're self-mining at Nautilus, it was 36 in September, 37 in August. And when you consider a day, that's probably in line there. The difficulty was higher during the month of September, so that was expected to go down. In terms of hash rate, we know they've got 10 exahash in total plugged in. They were able to achieve an operational hash rate of about 8.2. Their efficiency is 24.6, so it's in a good position there. But they've actually said they're going to get that efficiency down to about 18. So again, using some of that funding maybe to repurpose and get some of the new models machines in. Because bear in mind now, they haven't got the Nautilus to help them with the power cost. The power cost during the month of September, that's using both facilities. So you've effectively got probably something like about 20 to 25% at Nautilus and the remaining 75-80% at Lake Mariner. The average power cost was 35,000. Now, we just talked about the power costs that IREN were able to achieve in terms of a really efficient fleet, and that was down at 23,000. So even though we've always talked about TeraWulf has one of the lowest costs of energy, and it's a blended cost of about 4.2, that's $12,000 more per Bitcoin than IREN were able to pay at the Children's site. So,
And that's
you know,
with the blended rate, Anthony,
that's with the
before
blended
the
rate,
sale.
and yeah, so having a cheap energy cost is one part of the equation. Having the most efficient mine is another part of the equation. So if you think about efficiency, you've got to say that iron at least 33% more efficient than TeraWulf at the moment, and that's going to help with the power cost. Because iron are using effectively the market rate. We know that because they've come out of the hedge now, beginning of last month, and so, well, sorry, the beginning of August they came out of the hedge rate, and they're now delivering a really solid price. They've got a really good margin out of that, and if that continues the rest of the year, it should be a really top final quarter of the year for iron. The quarter we've just finished will have the issue about that the cost of actually coming out of the hedge and the actual implementation of that hedge for the first month, where the power cost was 61,000. But there's lesson learned there. This last 3 months should be an absolute boomer for iron, because we know now curtailment will reduce in Texas because the weather will be a lot more milder. Jason came on the podcast tonight and said, well, it's still 90 degrees now, but it is milder than normal. So, mild to Texans is probably, too hot for the likes of people in the UK. I mean, our hot weather gets to about 65 degrees, and then we're having to make sure we've got factor 50 on, and so we don't get sunburnt. So, a positive update from TeraWulf, mining that 176 Bitcoin, nearly 6 Bitcoin per day, and also looking to implement this new MB3 mining facility, to enhance that. What this will do is will enhance the performance of the miners as the cooler temperatures arrive. So we might see a better in terms of more operational hash rate during the month when it's cooler, because they're obviously having to curtail at the moment. And also, we know that some of the miners were affected by weather in September, especially likes of CleanSpark. So Wolf have got a gap there of nearly 2 exahash in terms of operational to what's installed. We expect that and every other miners to be growing closer together. So if they can get closer to delivering 10 exahash a month, that will help also deliver a great return for the company.
Yeah, it certainly will. Well, one thing's for sure, something is brewing in the Wolf Den and the Wolf Pack. I'm sure excited to hear what it is, Anthony. Again, congrats to all of these miners on a strong showing in September. Obviously, a lot going on in the space this week. We're going to be traveling over the weekend, Anthony, to Amsterdam, of course. We're going to be back for regular podcasts next week. You guys, if you're still watching at this point, make sure you hit the like button. Check out the interview last night with Jason Les. It was really an eye-opening interview and a slight change in positioning or stance on HPC as well, which was interesting. If you're not subscribed to the channel, feel free to join. And of course, hit the like button. Thanks so much. We'll see you here Monday.